All right, Pete. So I want to do this like cornerstones of combat, like the unsung guys before the ESPN deal, the crazy pay-per-views, and obviously 17-year career, 50
Yeah.
fight veteran, you came to mind. So I just wanted to kind of just recap with you, man. Like when you look back on your career, 25 wins, 22 finishes, when you look at the way you fought and the style you brought to the table, anyone
Yeah.
resembles Pete Spratt to you or not really?
Um, as far as the fighters today,
Yes.
um, I would say probably somebody like a Max Holloway,
Mm.
although he is more kind of toward the end of his career. Um, Adrian. Adrian Yanez, he looks to try to finish all the time out of Houston, a Texas boy. I got to give a Texas boy a shout out.
Facts.
And then it's another young cat named Camp, same Camp, Cameron Smotherman.
Mm-hmm.
He just got in. He's got one fight in the UFC, but he's one of the kids that I watched on the regional level, and he looks to finish all the time. And he trains with Eve Edwards, another OG from Texas. So
Definitely.
those are a few of the names that kind of stand out to me. That kind of has my fighting spirit, my fighting style. Because I was going in there, for me, either you were going to submit me or I was going to knock you out.
Facts.
That's just what it was.
Yes. No, absolutely. And you were in before like that evolution where everybody started learning a little bit of everything. It was kind of like
Yeah,
this is your style, this is their style, and you just clash and see whose style,
yeah,
kind of prevail.
yeah. I came in raw, man. I came in from a football background, and for me, it was my athleticism from football that kind of took me further and faster than what it would have today.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I leaned into that, man. I leaned into trying to hurt people and trying to finish people and just using my athleticism to get out of the other stuff.
What
And
is
it worked up until a point to where the game started to evolve.
facts? Absolutely. What
Yeah,
is the biggest difference you see now? Obviously, everything's bigger, the money, the promotion, the television deals, things like that. But
yeah.
just in I guess the gym, locker room, social media type thing. What is the biggest difference in today's MMA slash UFC as opposed to yesteryear?
Well, I mean, the whole social media stuff, man, like it really gets on my nerves. I got a kid that's in the UFC now,
Hmm.
and it just really gets on my nerves on how much they focus on their social media engagement, like especially during fight week.
Yes.
Social media engagement, posting and doing all of this stuff that has nothing to do with the fight, because at the end of the day, you got to get in there and try to take somebody else's head off.
Hmm.
So that social media stuff, man, it just really bothers me, man. It's just like these kids are just like prima donnas, and they're so concerned with doing this whole social media thing, and it for me it kind of takes away from the savagery of the sport, because most of these guys are just in it to say they got into the UFC, maybe win a couple of fights, and then they can go around saying they're a UFC vet for the rest of their life.
Hmm.
But it's just it's so different. It's really different with this social media. But at the same time, you got kids that are growing up wanting to be MMA fighters. It used to be, I want to be in the NBA. I want to go to the NFL. I mean, it's still that today, but you got kids that are really, really young that's doing MMA from a young age, and that's their goal, is to become a professional mixed martial artist.
I recently saw GSP say you are the reason he got into the UFC. George St. Pierre said when he came in to fight you, he was actually an underdog, I believe, and he ended
Yeah.
up defeating you. And he said that win is what got the UFC's attention. When there's an all-time
Yeah.
great, a Hall of Famer that says that about you, even being on the wrong end of it, it's got to feel good that he even gave you your props.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's all good and everything, but I was the big name at the time
Hmm.
that I came in to fight him, and actually, I had signed to fight him, and I went to Montreal to fight him, and he had staph in his knee, or he had some kind of knee injury, or whatever the case may be, and the fight had to be pulled the day of weigh-ins. So I was still booked to fight him for the next show. But during that time, the UFC had called me to come back and fight Kara Parisian at the time. And I told them, you know, I'm a man of my word. I honor my commitments. I have a commitment to this promotion, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep my word and fight for this promotion. And so then that turned into, if I win, I go back to the UFC. If GSP wins, he takes my spot.
Wow.
And that's how that went down.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Which is cool. Yeah, he should thank me. He probably wouldn't be where he is today without me.
Without you. Facts. 17-year career, Pete. Do you have any career regret? Is there a moment, a space in time where you just, damn, if I would have just done that different?
Honestly, if I wasn't such a savage and wanted to do it my way and prove to people that I could do it my way. I think if I had it to do all over again, I would have went back and accepted some help from other people.
You kind of just winged it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my only regret, man. Yeah. Because, you know, I was like, even speaking of the GSP fight when he took my spot, even then, I flew to Canada without a corner.
Wow.
Now, if I'm smart, I never do that. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't have nobody from my team there. I don't go fight. But I did that a lot of my career because I was one of those guys that you're like, yo, you know, I committed, I signed a contract, I'm going to be there whether I got a corner or not. And, you know, I took a lot of fights that way and did that. And, you know, just looking back on it, that wasn't very smart.
Yeah.
So now me as a coach, I try not to ever have to have my fighters to be put in that situation because I always want to make sure that I'm there because a lot of times my coaches weren't there for me, and I know how that felt.
Definitely. Is there anyone you ever wanted to fight, rematch, and it just for whatever reason before your career ended or their career ended, it didn't happen?
Kung
Lee. Damn.
That was a fight I was trying to get back when he was really, really hot on the fight scene at the time when he was doing Sancho. And my trainer was convinced that I could beat Kung Lee. And, you know, with his faith in me, I was convinced that I could beat Kung Lee. But the fight never did materialize. Actually, I ended up fighting one of his students and beating one of his students.
Damn.
So that's as close as I got to that fight.
That's crazy, man. I love hearing these crazy stories, man. Who is the best fighter you've ever trained with, and who is the best fighter? It don't even have to be like a GSP name recognition thing that you've ever been in a cage or ring with.
Let's see. The best that I've ever trained with. Oh, man, I got a who's who of who I've trained with.
Give us a few.
From Tito Ortiz to Guy Metzger to Trey Tellerman to Alex Andrade to Gene Hatcher, professional boxer. Even Sam Solomon, he was the IBF boxing champion from Australia. So I've trained with a who's who of people. And then all the guys that I trained with when we were on the Ultimate Fighter together. Travis Lutter, Jorge Rivera, Dean Thomas, Sarah, Patrick Cote. Like, there's a house full of guys that are savages. And but somebody that I trained with that probably is the best is like my brother is Eve Edwards. I would give him that honor.
Yes.
We spent several years. We spent several years training together, and if I had to pick one, it would probably be him.
Best you've ever been in the cage or ring with, just from I don't know if they overwhelmed you, brought out the best in you, just someone you would consider the best.
I would have to give GSP 1A, Carlos Newton 1B.
Damn,
I
you've been in
think I
there
would
with
throw
some.
that rap.
You've been in there with some savages, though. You've
Yeah,
been in there with some
yeah, man.
savages. Before I let
Yeah,
you
I would.
go, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, those would probably be the two that I would have to pick.
Before I let you go, Pete. Pete Spratt, the trainer, as opposed to Pete Spratt, the fighter. What do you feel are the biggest differences, or how you approach training as opposed to fighting?
I've learned from the fighter aspect to the training aspect. One of the things that I really, really reiterate when I'm training my fighters is I always say smarter, not harder. You have to. People always talking about no days off. You're not going to be your best if you don't take days off.
I like
You
that.
have to take days off. You have to take your recovery days. Like, it makes no sense for someone to say no days off and they train 7 days a week and don't take a day off to make sure their body recovers. That's how your body breaks down to a training camp. I won't do a training camp longer than 6 weeks, because you start to get hurt, you start to get dinged up, and then you can't go into the fight 100%. And I learned that from training several weeks. Like, I did a 9 to 12 week training camp one time, and I was hurt the whole camp.
Yeah,
And so from those two different aspects, for me, man, it's smarter, not harder. Make sure you take care of your body. Make sure you're resting. Make sure you're doing your recovery.
Well, man, for
That's the biggest difference.
Anyone needing motivation, whether it's going to work, going to train, there's nothing like following my man Pete Spratt and hearing that, yo. So follow my man on social media. Great motivator, bro. Best of luck in all your endeavors, man. And I look forward to keeping this thing going with you, bro. This first of many.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother.